So we're going to look at 3 different replays at 3 different MMRs of people playing Huskar. This first one is Hurled 5, then we'll be looking at an Archon player, and finally an Immortal rank 9. So straight away this Huskar put down an observer ward standing behind his trees. It's pretty obvious that he has watched some players before. This Huskar also is not a brand new player. He has like around 1,000 matches and 60 plus matches on Huskar in particular. But straight away with first creep wave, he's missed 3 out of 4 last hits. He also didn't get tangos from his supports, but based off of this, this is something that kind of commonly happens in Hurled. He's also taken some tower hits, which is really totally unnecessary, and Sniper is able to pretty much harass Huskar out of lane, which kind of shouldn't be the case early on in this lane. He could have just bought a salve and it would have been good enough. So now he's fighting Sniper up the high ground where he has a 25% miss chance. There's also a sharp one. He's just taking lots of unnecessary harass, and this ends up adding up to Sniper getting this invis rune, which he did have an observer ward to see Sniper picking up that rune, and now Sniper comes and ends up killing him. But he does end up dying to Sniper to the Huskar's burning spears afterwards. So that was all, like, that death there was totally preventable. So now it's almost 6 minutes into the game. Huskar's taking a lot of harass here, and Sniper has hit level 6 before him. And you do see that Huskar has 7 denies. This is something that I see quite common at this bracket, where players focus too heavily on denies and end up missing their own last hits as a result. Denies are kind of just seen as a thing to extend upon your last hits that's right now. And at this bracket, there's players are last hitting so poorly and getting so much gold from kills in comparison to the creeps that they're killing, that there's not really much point in trying to excessively deny them. And here you end up seeing that Sniper was just harassing you all along until this point, and now you end up diving the Sniper and taking a tower hit and die here. Regardless of whether you dived under the tower or not, Sniper was going to win that engagement. So now he just jumps in, but he's taking tower hits. He pushed Sniper away from him. He pretty much ganked himself there. A pretty awful mistake, but I don't think jumping in on Sniper was probably the best idea. You don't want to really do these suicide plays where you just jump in and fingers crossed you'll kill the Sniper, and you end up seeing Sniper now has enough farm that Bloodseeker can't even kill him by himself, and Sniper's nearly even got his own Dragon Lance now, and he has treads. He actually has his Dragon Lance finished. So this is pretty much seemingly a lost lane on mid. So Sniper has pretty much doubled the net worth of Huskar at this point, and Huskar is pushing this tower here on his own, and Sniper is kind of missing for a while, and Mars comes and ults. If that Mars ult had hitted, he would have died. This is the first gank that's kind of coming to his lane. Zeus is coming with an invis rune. There's even a PA here, so pretty bad camera work there as well to see even the PA rotating towards you. So at this point again, he's pretty bad with the camera. He doesn't even see where the Mars is, and his teammates are coming in up above from the top side of the river. But as you see, this is a terrible position for Huskar, and he ends up just being bursted down almost instantaneously. So this is not really the way that you want to start a fight. Your hero has a lot of damage, and you really need to try and output as much damage in a team fight, and not really just jump in, suicide, dive and stuff. And that's the 3rd time that he pretty much died to Sniper in a very similar way. So it's 14 minutes now, and Huskar still hasn't finished out his armlet. He's also rushing this armlet as well. So he ends up pushing Sniper back with the rupture, the knockback, but it ends up kind of working against him, because now he's standing in the middle of the river, where not only is he getting a miss chance against Sniper, but Zeus is also able to use all his spells on Huskar pretty easily from that position. So now Huskar finally has his armlet. He goes in on PA, but he doesn't toggle it on. So he ends up having Mars here running away from him, and the burning spears kills Mars without even toggling on the armlet. So now Zeus is here. He dives the tier 2. The tier 1 is after dying, someone killed it, but he doesn't toggle on his armlet until the last second, and now he's just trying to tank some tower hits. Ends up okay. He didn't toggle it too terribly, but typically you want to turn it on. And he also has this vampiric fangs, which give him lifesteal, which is pretty massive, and spell lifesteal. He goes diving onto PA again. Mischance here. We have global silence. He turns it on when CM comes, and now CM's after ulting. He's pretty much here on his own for just diving at tier 2. So this is just a massive overcommit. So Huskar's picked up a halberd here, and it'd be interesting to see how he ends up using the halberd active. So he jumps in on Sniper here in Marisol. He never pressed his halberd, he never pressed the armlet, so he ends up dying like pretty easy here. If we have a look at the rest of his team, where they're currently positioned right now, you'll end up seeing they're nowhere near him. He literally pushed the mid lane on his own, and his rest of his team is up here. This is just a really stupid place to die. So now Huskar's team is grouped up together. There's 4 heroes here. They don't have global silence, but he's deciding to go high ground anyways. This is kind of a relatively risky play. You want to look at something like Roshan and potentially take that before going high ground, especially seeing as PA has managed to get a Desolator now, and with the armor reduction he dies pretty easily. So now they're going high ground yet again. They've been caught in a Marzalt here, and Huskar has still not turned on his armlet here. He's not pressing his the halberd on anyone either. He turns on his armlet only near where he hits low health, and he finally uses the halberd on Sniper after he jumps in a little bit late on that. And Sniper, I think, did he buy back there as well? I think Sniper just bought back, so it's like 2 minutes with Sniper dead. This is easily the strongest point that you have in the game, and you to win out the match, and you really don't want to like die at this point, and it's kind of critical that you take objectives off of this. So diving for kills like this is pretty awful idea, especially as we've seen that the Sniper was pretty okay. So now you can see that the enemy have like grouped up together, and Huskar is coming here. He jumps in on PA first. He hasn't pressed his BKB, so he gets hit by the Zeus ult. He doesn't press halberd onto anyone either. Now he presses the BKB for the CM ult, and he's pretty much focusing CM, who has pretty much the highest armor in the game. He hasn't used his halberd yet, and he pretty much gets focused down here and even wears out his entire 10-second BKB there. This is 90 seconds dead, and in a lot of games this would pretty much be like game over if the Bloodseeker was not kind of carrying him. So if the Bloodseeker was not able to finish out the game here, as you see he's jumping in on Sniper, he doesn't have dust here, so the Sniper ends up like almost killing him here, only for actually using the halberd this time. He would end up dying there, and Sniper had buyback just before he respawned, but he ended up spending some gold and he didn't have buyback there. And the Huskar now also doesn't have buyback, so literally the Sniper could have ran down the other side and finished out the game. But it's very obvious that this Huskar has terrible awareness. So now we're looking at an Archon 2 Huskar. He did a little bit of a block of a creep wave, and the first thing he does is check Razor's items when he comes into lane, to check the regen mainly, what he's focusing on. He has a salve, he has 1 tango from his allies, he also has a fairy fire. So this is much better structure to how you should start your laning stage. And there is some trading here back and forth. However, if we notice the last hits here, Huskar now has 0 last hits and 0 denies. Here comes the second creep wave coming in, and now he's last hitting under his tower, which is now being pushed in by Razor, and he misses pretty much every single last hit in the first 2 creep waves. This is pretty much terrible. Even though he traded a lot of harass there, it's really pointless to trade harass if you're missing out on so much regen. And on a lot of heroes, when you're playing on mid, this is massively unfavorable to just trade harass. However, in this scenario, even with like 0 last hits here, he does manage to end up killing Razor after his death with the burning damage. So even though like he gets more gold in this interaction, the Razor gets more experience. So now he's still only like level 2, whereas Razor has hit level 3 at this point. This is not a very great way to start the game. So Huskar and Razor are like trading back and forth like this pretty regularly, and every time they're trading, the Huskar pretty much loses out on like the last hits that were available ready to him. So at this point now, Huskar could go dive with the salve that he's healing up with. He could glyph the creeps and attack Razor and potentially get a kill. That would actually be a pretty smart idea, especially with the salve timing that he had there. But he never ended up glyphing the creeps, so he even took a tower hit there. And now Razor also has his own salve that he's after clicking on, so he's healed back up and health here very quickly around the same time that Huskar did. Now Razor decides to static link him here and chase him down. Now Huskar is orb walking, and he is walking backwards. He's now getting the bonus armor from the tower. If someone like Spirit Breaker was to charge him mid, he would be dead here, but luckily he actually wins this fight. So Huskar's hit level 6 before Razor, and Huskar has slightly better network than Razor. Both mid players have pretty terrible network for like 5 minutes into the game. Like, they should be distinctly ahead of the other players, but they're just contesting so much on harass, they're not really getting much out of it. But you end up seeing here that Huskar goes in on Razor like this, and even though Razor dies, Huskar died first, so he doesn't get experience. Now, straight after this, when Huskar respawns, before even hitting a creep, he jumps onto line trying to get a kill here, and he ends up dying again 2 times in a row. So this is like really terrible, like, especially with the death timers being increased with 7.24. He's pretty much dead here for like nearly an entire 60 seconds. He also lost the equivalent of 50 gold for a teleport. Even though the teleport was free, he'll have to buy one later on in the match. It's worth 50 gold. This is just not stuff that you really want to be happening in your laning stage. You're allowing Razor to pull further ahead, or like closer to what you are right now. And now he has to walk back to lane, which is again even more wasted time. PA is here. So this is like a really stupid position. At this point, no one has showed on the map for a little while, and Huskar is standing here on his own. No one else is around really to help him. Razor appears, now Lion is teleporting, and we have a Spirit Breaker charge. Pretty much a 4-man gang. These things do happen, but these are stuff that does affect your momentum, going like from being a little bit ahead to going like out of control. You don't want these like kind of deaths to end up happening. So after the death that Huskar had, he pretty much just went into the jungle and started farming in the jungle. He didn't really go and help any of the other lanes. As you can see top right now, there's pretty much a dive happening, and he never responds to this. This is around the time that you want to be teleporting to other lanes. He doesn't have even a TP ready, and now he's fighting PA. Spirit Breaker can charge him. And it's really where you want to be responsive or to do rotations elsewhere. And if you just sit in the jungle like this as a Huskar, you might end up just losing, especially against a lineup that can pretty much run around and get ganks like Pudge and Spirit Breaker. This is not the way that you want to play. So this is the first time that he's going playing active at 17 minutes. This is around the point of where he could have already got maybe like 3 or 4 kills during this time if he just rotated around rather than getting a little bit more farm. And now he's even getting more gold for these kills than he would out of the creep camps. And you can pretty much be more efficient of it. And objectively, you'll end up seeing he gets another kill. And people are just walking into him and he gets kills because he's really strong at this point. And it's where you need to abuse your strengths and exploit every bit of it. And now he's even pushing a tower. So this is amazing stuff that happened in just 60 seconds there. But this is stuff that he should have been doing over the past 6 or 7 minutes prior to this as well. So Huskar ended up going for a trusty shovel as his desired neutral item, but he ended up having an ironwood tree which gives you +6 stats, and +6 stats is much better. It's 120 health, it gives you extra agility which also leads to a small bit extra armor, and all that stuff is really good for Huskar. But you end up seeing here that he even like channels the trusty shovel, and he's going for a smoke now into Roche Pit. It was his plan, but Spirit Breaker ended up charging here, and it ended up taking this like really weird fight. So he used Halberd here onto Razor, but as you see, Razor is now going to Yules himself, and pretty much the Halberd was kind of pointless. And using the Halberd that early onto Razor, he doesn't have much damage until he does the good suck where he gets the damage pulled out of everyone else. And now PA, he ends up missing 2 attacks here, and then PA jumps back and kills him. Now if you end up using the Halberd instead on PA and stalling and using the Halberd a little bit later, that could have played out a little bit different. He could have ended up potentially killing Razor as well there. You see Pudge is low, and even the Lion as well, so that could have ended up turning out really well for him. Or even if you had like more gold, if you were really far ahead and you had other engagements earlier, you could have even had more of your BKB finish, which would bring you closer to like winning a fight like that. So Huskar ends up smoking here, and he runs into Roshan, and this is at 25 minutes, and he ends up doing Roshan successfully, and this is really nice. And in comparison to the Hurl players, they completely ignored that Roshan even existed. But something that you'll end up seeing that is with this Huskar is that he's really bad objectively, because if we have a look at the map, this tower is still alive and this tower is still alive. Both of these are low HP, and if you spend some time just focusing pushing in these waves, when you take these 2 towers, you control a lot of the enemy jungle, and you can move down and start farming this part of the jungle and putting wards into the enemy part. So it ends up being harder for PA to get farm. but instead by farming back here like this, it ends up kind of just putting you at a disadvantage, and it stalls the game longer and longer, and they end up chasing off after this. Now the chase ends up becoming where the problem is. He does end up like going on Pudge here. Now he's going on Lion. And at this point, like if you were doing like a little bit better, even just like that little bit better last season, he would have his BKB at this point. The BKB isn't like really that useful in this scenario, but in some matches it can be. But he's chasing so heavily here after the PA, he wastes so much time, and his team are now not even near him anymore. So Spirit Breaker also ran past him at one point, and Spirit Breaker is now like pretty much feeding up here or whatever. I don't know what he's doing. He's going after techies. He's super mad at him or whatever. Typical Dota player, angry at techies. But Huskar is doing something even worse here. He's pretty much going in on his own with the Aegis, and this is kind of game losing here because you really want to push your objectives so heavily with this. So another thing I want to highlight in this fight, during the chase that he's doing on this PA, notice how the creep wave is coming in here and it's pushing down to this tower. He could end up being hitting this tower during all this time. At the same time, this bottom tier 1 tower died to literally creeps. Now you end up seeing that he keeps chasing here from about 25 seconds on for how long is he here, like another 30 seconds, 35 seconds. And if you have a look, like this other creep wave, it's like up here. Like it's nowhere near you, and Spirit Breaker is even kind of cutting it. Like Spirit Breaker could probably even try and kill this creep wave. There's one creep coming here. Creeps are really far back, so you really need to utilize that creep wave pushing it, and lost so much momentum off of this. They end up losing the game a little bit later. As you can see, this is a techies game. It kind of goes on for like this 30-minute base defense, and they end up losing anyways afterwards, regardless of the base defense. So now we're looking at an Immortal rank 9 Huskar. And most of the players in this game are under rank 100, and I think the worst rank is rank 200. So straight away Huskar harasses with burning spears, and he's much stronger than Zeus at the start, and he also has stick charges. He pretty much wants to build up stick charges against Zeus and potentially buy a salve. You see he has a salve queued up even, and this is just so that it makes it easier for him to fight. As well with the Fairy Fire, the idea is that you can keep trading and engagement, and pretty much sometimes you catch people out by utilizing that Fairy Fire in a fight back and forth. So the main thing that you're concerned about in this lane is getting ganked as Huskar, especially when playing against an Earth Spirit. So as you see, he moves forward up like this, and generally it's okay if he knows exactly where Earth Spirit is on the map, and Earth Spirit has showed on the minimap a few times at bottom, so Huskar can keep doing this, and he is trading as much harass as he possibly can. And the reason why is because this Zeus started out with 2 shared tangos, and only the other shared tango is just available now. He even had to buy extra tangos as well to start off this laning stage. And unfortunately what ends up happening here is Zeus comes down to the bottom and gets a regen rune. So this pretty much nullifies the entire laning stage that has went on with the harass there in the first 2 minutes. People talk about neutral items being random. Well, this rune pretty much saved Zeus's starting laning stage with regen. So the Huskar hasn't been using his stick charges, and he's pretty much holding on for as many as he can. And the Zeus hasn't been giving stick charges away to him very easily, and he also has the Fairy Fire. He just used his tango there, and now Earth Spirit rolls in, kicks him back, and he pretty much ends up dying after this. The stick charges weren't enough, but if the Zeus was spamming his spells there, the stick charges, or like 1 charges in this case, would have allowed him to survive through that gank. Now, the other thing I want to point out is his Observer Ward. So he had an Observer Ward that was placed here by a support, and this is a very common Observer Ward spot for mid laners that want to farm this camp here. So you either place an Observer here, or else it's like, I think this spot, like right here, this square, and this way you get vision into this camp and you can start attacking it, either to stack it or just to farm it. Earth Spirit's after walking through the ward that's on bottom that I was just talking about there, and Snapfire's after coming from the other side. I think she might have smoked, but that ends up being a bad cookie. But either way, he's kind of just dead here. And if again the Zeus was giving him lots of stick charges, he would have been able to survive through that. If this was slightly lower skilled players, Ancient or Divine, he definitely would have survived through that. Now he finds Earth Spirit. He has his armlet toggled on before the fight starts. He doesn't have to really finish off Earth Spirit because I don't think he had any stick charges left. He just kind of sat back, let Earth Spirit dive. He's just chasing, trying to catch Zeus. But the Zeus doesn't want to get anywhere close to him. The Zeus has really good positioning, so the Huskar is constantly trying to see if Zeus is out of position. And finally he's found Zeus out of position, and now Zeus tries to teleport, and he ends up getting out with the good stun here from the cookie. So we have him just chasing here after Slark. He can't get in range for anything, so the Slark just keeps running away. And like, obviously if this was like Legend or Ancient, you might end up just being able to run down the Slark and he'll overcommit or something like that, or catch people out of position. But you see that this Huskar is opting to go phase boots, and this is something I looked at a few replays of this player, and they go phase boots pretty much every game, mainly because of the fact that they can run down players really easily and close that gap between them, and it's just to catch players out of position. Because I don't know, do all players expect Huskar to have phase boots? Treads used to always be the old build, but now that phase boots got changed a few patches ago, where it now gives armor, it's much better for like catching people, I guess. The active is, and you see he goes on Zeus. So Zeus bought a Ghost Scepter here. He jumps in on Zeus, and this does magic damage onto him. And now he presses his Q just soon after this to do magic damage again, which ends up like killing the Zeus. So now the Aegis has ran out, and the Dire side wants to go and play aggressive, trying to catch this Huskar here. And he ends up dodging the spear there. So when he threw the spear on Mars, Huskar ended up pressing his ultimate at the same time, which for some reason doesn't end up having the spear to pull him or knock him back. It like overrides it for whatever reason. Huskar ends up surviving on like 100 HP here, and he pretty much can lifesteal back up off of this, and he ends up like pretty much tanking a lot of important spells there. And this is really good because it makes space for Morphling, which is really their late game solution. So Huskar is now got his Satanic. This is probably the reason as well why he didn't bother going for the 20 lifesteal talent on level 15, because with this Satanic, because he was going to get it so early, he wasn't going to have this time where there was no lifesteal. He's also picked up a Titan Silver. Mars is picked off near the start of this fight, and Slark is pretty much trying to pick off the supports here, and Huskar is defending his supports. As you see, Slark is coming again for the supports here, and Slark can Shadow Blade and run away. Now Slark does get away with this, and the Solar Crest is debuffing him here, so he is kind of being careful to get back under his tower here. And Morph is here to help in the fight. Finally this guy is online, and Huskar is going in, pretty much disarming Slark here with the halberd, and you have these two guys getting picked off. So straight off that fight, Huskar goes into Roshan. As you see here, Rubik is after getting picked off by Slark. This is a common occurrence, and you saw earlier that Huskar was trying to defend his supports in the previous fight, but you'll end up seeing here Slark is again going to go on the back line onto Winter Wyvern. And this is what happens when you don't defend your supports. So this is happening even though Huskar is trying to help, but it's a little bit too late, and the supports did get cut out. This guy does have to carry his team, seeing as he is the highest MMR player in this match. So now we have Huskar being gone on by Mars and Slark. Really fast reactions there to put out the disarm just as he got speared onto the tower. And now they're in this really awkward position where they can't really deal with him. Now Huskar ends up going in, and Mars has to waste his ulti. Rubik even steals Mars' ult here and blocks Mars in. Now Slark awkwardly dived into this, and now he can't get out. So Slark made a big mistake there, and Huskar still had the Aegis during all of that. So Huskar's Aegis never even got blown in that. So that's an impressive like reaction times mechanical skill there as well, to understand that you need to disarm and bait them into that Mars ult, and Slark coming into it as well. So based off the small mistake on Slark's end, the Huskar goes mid, and the supports won't really end up getting picked off in the back line here. And he's even trying to go tier 4 here, forcing out like a buyback is really what he wants. So going for tier 4 dive here, but the tier 4 dive is not really that much because Morphling is the one that will do huge amounts of damage to the towers. He has Aegis, he still has the Satanic, there's Winter Wyvern to back him up. There's a ton of stuff that's gonna like essentially allow him to play like super hyper aggressive here, but he is very careful not to overcommit. And now he can find Slark here, and Slark does get kind of disarmed. He's forced to use BKB on Slark, and Huskar is kind of in a problematic situation now, and the Mars ended up baiting him into a dive, and like the Mars blinked away, So now the Huskar gets put into this really awkward position. He gets stunned by the cookie. And is there any way to save him here? He still has cheese. So he's trying to turn this around, go on to... Okay, he used the cheese now. He also has Satanic used as well. So the rest of Huskar's team ended up picking off Mars, and now they decide to go pushing high ground. They also have a pipe, which is really good for dealing against Zeus pushing high ground. And we have Slark, which went in here. We have Rubik, which blinks in and lifts the Slark here. And Rubik throws out a spear, which throws onto Slark and pins him onto this building. And now Morphine and Huskar just focus him. That was Rubik's play, right? That's really impressive that support can pretty much like pull out and kill a carry. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more Dota content like this, make sure you subscribe. And I'm also streaming over on Twitch if you're interested in seeing me actually play some games.